You're listening to international investment advisor Doug Goldstein on the Goldstein On Gelt Show, the financial show where we'll talk about how you can make the most of your money. With all the confusing financial chatter bombarding you each and every day, Goldstein On Gelt will give you the practical information you want and need about living a financially stable life. Here's your host, money maven Doug Goldstein.
We are back. We are talking with Vicky Ward, who is the author of the best-selling book, The Devil's Casino, Friendship, Betrayal, and the High-Stakes Game Played Inside Lehman Brothers. The book came out in March, published by Wiley, and it is a New York Times and Wall Street Journal's best-selling book. Vicky has been a contributing editor to Vanity Fair since 2001, and she specialized in investigative reporting. She's a weekly columnist for the Huffington Post and a contributor to CNBC. She was previously the executive director of Talk Magazine. Her work has appeared in the New York Times, the Financial Times, the London Times, and the Daily Telegraph. She holds a master's degree in English literature from Cambridge University and, in fact, is British, and has lived in New York City since 1997. 1997, I'm sorry. So, Vicky, I would like to welcome you to the show.
Thank you so much.
Let me ask you a few questions about the book. In the book, The Devil's Casino, you follow men who become rich, and then they seem to change. It seems that money ruins their lives, ruins their friendships, ruins their marriages, and ultimately it ruins Lehman Brothers. Is there an underlying message that everyone should learn, or does this story represent just a very select group of people?
Well, it's a great question, and it's sort of the question that the book asks, really. It is the fundamental question at the heart of the book. And the answer is actually complicated. The book is different, I think, from a lot of the other books on the crash and on Lehman Brothers, in that it's not a particularly wonky academic book that spends hours and hours talking about credit derivatives. It's really a look at people and what happened, and the culture inside Lehman Brothers, what it was, what it became, and the people who changed it. And as you say, how those people changed, how those people started off with nothing, became rich. And it is true that in the book, I tell the story of four best friends who were very unlikely Wall Streeters, in that none of them had gone to Ivy League schools. It was sort of from a middle-class blue-collar background. And they drove in an hour and a half every day to Lehman Brothers for over 10 years. And the book tells the story of how they had taken an oath that they'd go on Wall Street, they'd make money, but they'd never let it change them, and it would never break their friendships. And tragically, it does. And eventually, they do blow up the bank, and the rest of the world follows in their wake. However, it wouldn't be correct to say that I think, and nor does the book suggest, that all men who become rich change, break up their friendships, and then proceed to bankrupt the institutions that they work for, and then sparking a systematic collapse. In fact, I think what the book shows, and this is really the tragedy of it, is that those four men, plus Dick Fuld, who wasn't one of them, but who nominally sat above them as the bank's number one, very nearly succeeded. And there were people around them busy holding up signposts saying, this is the right way to go. And those people are mentioned in the book. I mean, there's a guy called Tom Tucker who becomes so aware of what he sees as this insidious culture, and how aware, growing, and how aware he is, of how they've all changed, and how Lehman appears to have become a culture of lies. There's a great line in the book where one person says it became, what lie are we going to tell the market, and what lie are we going to tell the people who work here? And Tom Decker, who was then the head of sales, this would be in the 1990s, was one of the men in the car, and he was so disgusted by what had happened that he went in to see his best friend and said, I'm giving my bonus back. I want it given to my staff, and I've quit. We've all become people we said we wouldn't become, and we're not acting in the way we said we should act. And I think, there's another chap in the book, the former CFO, called John Cecil, who was a former McKinsey consultant, who was hugely important for restructuring Lehman throughout the 1990s. They really couldn't have survived without his wisdom, because they were essentially a bunch of cowboys, in all honesty. And again, he got ignored because Lehman became a place that valued loyalty over ability, which is a very, very, very dangerous thing for any institution to do. And so Lehman was different from other banks. And I'm even going to stick out my neck and say it was different from Goldman Sachs, which is, as we know, the favourite sort of, punching ball on Wall Street at the moment. But at Goldman Sachs, and the same thing at JP Morgan Chase, Jamie Dimon doesn't want anyone on his executive committee who thinks exactly the same way as he does, because if they think the same way as he does, then why does he need them there? They want debate. They don't take it personally if somebody disagrees. And those kind of cultures are respected. They're known, they're talked about, and they're respected in Washington. And one of the reasons, unquestionably, and the book sort of goes into this, that the Treasury and the Fed really sort of despised Lehman Brothers was that the culture was known. And they did think, I sound facetious, that they were sort of a bunch of monkeys who had no idea what they were doing, and who furthermore ignored anyone who did know what they were doing. And that really didn't help them when crunch time came, because people thought they were a joke. Whereas if there had been various opportunities, which I outline in the book, if they had made certain hard, if they'd hired Joe Carella, who wanted to come twice, and twice got turned down because the number 2 at the firm, Joe Gregory, was terrified that this man who had the biggest Rolodex on Wall Street would somehow outstrip him. Made sure that he never got past the entrance door. Well, that's not a sensible thing for a bank that wants to grow and build up its reputation. You should be hiring the brightest and the best from the top down, and from the down, and from the bottom up. So I, and I also think that the book mentions many. Warren Buffett is mentioned at the end. Warren Buffett is one of the richest men in the world, and he's not somebody he's someone who's remained with his feet very firmly planted on the ground, famously so. And he didn't help Lehman for a very, very, very simple reason, which was he looked at their 10K that Hank Paulson asked him to. This was in the spring before they went down in 2008. And he didn't understand it. So he said, I'm not going to invest because I don't understand. It's very simple. I don't invest in things I don't understand.
Right. That is a classic line that Warren Buffett says. We are talking with Vicky Ward, who is the author of the best-selling book, The Devil's Casino, which is about all of the problems that Lehman Brothers had that eventually led to its collapse. Vicky had a phenomenal chance to speak with many of the people inside of Lehman Brothers, inside and around, to write her book. So, Vicky, my question to you is, after speaking with all of these people, as you know, I'm an investment advisor. I deal with individuals who are investing. Unfortunately, Warren Buffett is not my client, and he did not. he didn't ask me whether I thought he should invest in Lehman, but people do ask about investing. So, in meeting all of these people, did you come up with or see any ideas for perhaps yourself or for others that would be more personal financial planning lessons that an individual could keep in mind?
Well, I mean, the most obvious lesson from the book is, as an investor, but also that if you're running any kind of company, don't spend more than you've got. Lehman basically became blind because they became so competitive, particularly with Goldman Sachs, that they abandoned all common sense, especially when it came to investing in real estate. And part of the huge problem for them, which was that when they basically had a run on the bank coming at them, they were stuck because they'd put a lot of this commercial real estate, which was therefore illiquid, on their own balance sheet. Now whereas Goldman Sachs, to be fairness, I mean, everybody was investing heavily in real estate, but in fairness, people had started to de-lever once Hank Paulson had told them to, for a good 6 months before that, and the other banks had largely taken it. It wasn't on their own balance sheet. It was put out to a fund, so their own. So they themselves weren't caught. So I would have said, I mean, if it came to it, someone said in 2008, would you invest in Lehman Brothers? I mean, these things are not rocket science. You actually have to be like Warren Buffett and just say, look, you take one look at that balance sheet and see what's on it. There were, I think, 40 billion worth of line items on there that if they had to suddenly sell, couldn't be moved. What happened here was exactly the same as in the bubble of the internet. It's common sense. I mean, somebody said to me, who writes for the business page of the New York Times, that when their mother's gardener is living in a house, he mows the lawn and he's living in a house that's worth, $1.5 million, something is wrong with this picture. Right. And so I think it means that, everybody, but Lehman in particular, needed to stand back and listen to the people who were not saying anything actually amazingly clever. They were just uttering very cautious words of advice, and just basically common sense. And where I think they were irresponsible. I think there was a reason they were irresponsible. I don't think it was because of their size, because they were. After Bear Stearns, they were the next smallest bank on the street. Therefore, they felt that in order to compete with the big guys, they had to take bigger risks. And the story of the Devil's Casino, in some ways, is how very narrowly in the past this worked for them, but only just. I mean, they squeaked by with the Mexican peso crisis in 1994-95. They squeaked by in the Russian crisis. And most people would have said, cool, that was a narrow miss. Let's not repeat that. But they did. They then survived 9/11 because their buildings were wiped out. And what happened was there was this growing mentality that became very, very, very dangerous, which was we are invincible. So and Mark Walsh, who was in charge of making their real estate bets, have been successful for so many years by 2008, almost 20 years. He'd been one of their King Midases, that he was given carte blanche. And I think if you were an investor, one of the first questions you should ask when you see a firm that's weighted so heavily towards real estate like that was, well, what checks and balances have you got in-house on Mark Walsh? How do you know that he is infallible? Because in a way the firm fell because for once he didn't get it right, for once.
Mm-hmm.
And but they should have, nobody, once, somebody's always going to make a mistake.
Right. I think that's a very important lesson that you were able to learn by looking at the giants that fell, but that I see with clients, in my practice, that they sometimes get too excited about a possibility that they take such leveraged risks that they end up hurting themselves. Let me ask you a question. We're getting close to being out of time, but your book was fantastic. What's the next project that you're involved in that we can look forward to?
Well, I'm in the middle of doing this proposal, so I'm not going to be too specific. But since we were just talking about real estate, and real estate is obviously the one of the huge issues of the moment, with so many foreclosures going on, so many real estate tycoons in trouble for the first time in many years, that I am going to tell the story of a very famous building that has had very many owners. And what I want to do is once again, it's going to be a story about people with the building as a sort of metaphor for the unattainable goal that they all wanted. But really it's the story of men who want everything and get it for a while, and then the really interesting thing is, why does it blow up? And the difference between the mentality of real estate tycoons and the people I write about in the Devil's Casino is that people in the Devil's Casino were interested in making a few million more each year, for themselves. These guys start with nothing and wonder how they make $2 billion tomorrow. And interestingly, they succeed.
That is amazing.
And so they're the ultimate Icaruses, if you like.
Sure.
They're the ultimate. They really get to the sun, but then the sun obviously destroys them. And what I want to do is get inside their heads, because I think it must be a fascinating place to be.
I think that sounds fantastic, how you have looked at these major companies and looked at how they have fallen. And I must tell you, Vicky Ward, who is the author of the best-selling book, The Devil's Casino, I hope that you will never write a book about my company, Profile Investments, because, gosh, it looks like if you were to do that, it would mean that something terrible happened.
No.
But for those of you who are interested in reading the book, you can buy The Devil's Casino: Friendship, Betrayal, and the High-Stakes Games Played Inside Lehman Brothers, written by Vicky Ward and published by Wiley earlier this year. It's available in all bookstores. It's available online, and if you have a Kindle, you can buy it on a Kindle as well. Vicky, once again, I'd like to thank you very much. You've really enlightened us, and I've greatly enjoyed talking to you, and I wish you success with all of your future endeavors.
Well, thank you, Doug. The same to you.
Okay, thanks.
Take care. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Goldstein on Gelt Show with money maven Doug Goldstein. Doug's weekly radio show is heard around the world, but if you miss it, you can download the podcast at www.goldsteinongelt.com. The Goldstein on Gelt Show gives you up-to-date financial ideas so you can get on the path to financial freedom. If you'd like your questions answered on the air or off, send Doug an email to doug@profile-financial.com. It's your money for your future, so join Doug every week to build your wealth on the Goldstein on Gelt Show.